Our guest today is an artist who's never been afraid to blur the lines between genres. From his roots in rock to carving out a distinctive space in country music, Dan Davidson has built a sound that's instantly recognizable. Along the way, he's earned chart success, millions of streams, and a reputation as one of the most innovative voices in Canada's country scene. Today, we're talking about his musical journey, the stories behind the songs, and where the road is taking him next. So I want to start at the beginning, growing up and the environment that shaped you. How did your upbringing influence the kind of music that you make today?
Geez, I'm not sure if it did. To be honest, I think yeah, influenced by songs, but all the stuff I grew up listening to. You start with your parents' music always, and for me, it was my parents are both from Manitoba, so a lot of exposure to their music happened in the car on long drives out to the lake, 10-hour drives with me and my three sisters. So a lot of the stuff that was in the car, the Blue Rodeos, the Lyle Lovetts, the Queens, Eagles, those kinds of bands of the world, those are always big in the early development of things, I suppose. But, as I got into my teenage years, started playing guitar and wanted to kind of explore that kind of aggressive side of things as some teenagers kind of do. So I was in a lot of pretty terrible little rock bands and punk bands and things like that for a long time. So I like to explore, I think, all sides of music and let, I feel like different things can hit you different ways and from all the different genres. So eventually, after I did the rock and roll thing for a long time, kind of wanted to explore more of the songwriter side of what I do, and that kind of lends to country music, and so all those years of playing rock and roll and keeping that one door locked, that twangy country music door, I just kind of let it open as I started to write country music and get back in touch with some of the music that my dad and my grandpa would play, the Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson and things like that. I never really looked back. I still feel like I love all these different genres that I get involved in, and I still produce and write a lot of pop and rock and urban and heavy metal even. But like country's obviously where my life has taken me, and it's something I've enjoyed a lot.
That's really cool. So it was something that not necessarily you were avoiding, but you didn't think it was going to lead you to down this road initially.
Yeah, I mean, being a country singer was never really on my radar as a kid. It just wasn't something that I thought was in the cards for me. But life's funny like that. You never know where a conversation or a writing session or a friendship is going to take you.
Absolutely. Do you hear your younger self in your songs now? Do you?
No, not really. No, I feel like there's such an evolution that happens. And when I listen back to some of my old recordings, as a teenager, I hardly even recognize my voice. I feel like my voice sounds so different back then. So it's all part of the story, it's all ingredients in the big soup. And
yeah, absolutely.
And it's funny to reconnect with those bands that I used to love though. And I still do that from time to time. And I always need a palate cleanser. I can't just do country music all the time. I need to reconnect with these different sides of expression over the years that I've come in contact with and I've fell in love with. So I feel like balance is really important in order for me to maintain focus in country music.
Awesome. So the song Found, that kind of changed everything for you. It kind of validated you in a huge way. But success is a little complicated, as you kind of mentioned. Did it feel like freedom, or did it kind of quietly raise the stakes in a way that made you afraid to fail?
Yeah, a little bit of that. It's funny. It was the second song I released as a country artist, and it just kind of blew up. It became a wedding song, and it was the highest charting Canadian independent song for a long time. And very quickly it went gold, and now it's platinum. And so I felt like once that was released, it was the first half of my career was all just about keeping up with the momentum of that song because it was just so well received. And of course, with the music career, every time you set a high bar, it's always the bane of your existence to get back to that moment and that song. And I haven't topped it yet, but part of the fun is trying and feeling like, what connected about that? It's trying to solve the mystery. Why did that work so well? And and without repeating yourself, trying to get back to that feeling. So yeah, it's I remember I had another one of those moments early on in my career, my rock and roll career. My band got to go on a mini tour opening for Bon Jovi. And, once you're starting to play 17,000 person arenas, feels pretty good. And it's a little bit motivating. And while it is frustrating that not every show can be that show, there's something about it that makes you want to get back there worse than ever.
That's awesome. How describe that feeling opening for Bon Jovi?
Yeah,
how did you feel when you first found out that you were going to open for them?
Terrified. It's it's a rock and roll Hall of Fame band. That's one of the biggest bands in the world. So, well, we did that. I was fairly young. I was probably only 23 or 24 or something when we got the chance to do that gig. And I watched some video footage of it, and I don't think I ever want to watch the video footage again, because I think we could have probably performed a lot better than we did. But it was such a moment. We got to really drink it in, and we were here in Edmonton too, which was kind of special to be in that. It seems like it's the Mecca stage for any hometown artist. They want to play the biggest. They want to play the rink. They want to play the big stadium, right? So that was really cool, and we did get a quick brush with those guys. Like I ran into John Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora, and I was kind of a little bit starstruck. I didn't really have too much to say to him, but it was still a cool moment for me. But it did highlight the dichotomy of where the big stars are, where we were. I remember packing up on stage and listening to their texts talking about how they were jumping on a private jet to go to Brazil, and we were like getting in a van and going to Cold Lake. So it was a little less hoity-toity than what they were dealing with, but pretty cool though to kind of even have that brush, that brand rub, to kind of give you some motivation.
That's amazing. What's a part of that success that nobody talks about?
I think a lot of thing that fans don't see is the difference. It's like you hear somebody on the radio and you kind of assume like, oh, they must be having the tour bus and having all this stuff, but there's the perception of fame is such a funny thing. In music, it's really hard to make a living. It's really hard to get to the point where you don't have to do a lot of anything else, right? So it's on our side of the business, we all have an understanding. Like I feel like anyone that I meet that's been in the business longer than 10, 15 years, there's this unspoken kind of like brotherhood, sisterhood thing going on where it's like, oh, okay, you're a survivor just like me, and we're still in it somehow. So we're one of the lucky ones.
It's interesting. It's a lot of glamour. We just see the glamorous part of it, and
yeah. And it's tough because it's an expensive thing to do too. Like when you get, sometimes those big opportunities come with big costs. So as an artist, you always do a show for either the money, the look, or the opportunity. And sometimes the opportunity and the look mean that there's no money. So you gotta be strategic with your moves.
Absolutely. But let's talk about the part that's a little harder to package. You're not just an artist, you're a husband, you're a father. You leave home to tour, you miss things, bedtime, school moments, ordinary days. Has there ever been a moment where you ask yourself, is this worth it?
There's definitely some days where, we'll commit to a big trip. Like a couple of years ago, I went to Australia for a tour, and it's become something that has really paid off in the long run, just developing a foreign market like that. But yeah, I had to miss a birthday for my youngest daughter, and that was a tough one. It just kind of felt like I'm over here other side of the world, and it's like I'm building something. I'm not really. It wasn't about the money on that trip. It was about sort of planting some seeds, and it was a bit of a tough pill to swallow to miss a birthday and a first day of school. Those were tough ones. But for the most part, I'm pretty lucky because I typically am not gone for long periods of time. Like if I go to Australia, then it's at least 2 weeks. But for the most part, I feel like I'm lucky. I get a lot more when my kids were little anyway, I got a lot more daytime hours with them than a lot of dads do. And those 9 to 5 hours when they're still before grade 1, where they're around the house, like I was there, and it was sort of a weekends thing in the summertime, especially where you fly out for a festival and you fly home. So it's a different experience as being a music industry dad, but I think it's got its ups as well as its downs.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, what has fatherhood exposed about you that fame never could?
Okay. Um, I feel like, yeah, I just, how as a young man, I think I always felt like I had to be out there and grinding and really leveling up all the time and getting the perception so high that people would have a certain impression of me. But I feel like I care a little bit less about what people's impression is of me now that I've just had so many great moments being a dad to my girls and being involved in the hockey teams and teaching them piano and doing all these things. Like I kind of don't care if people see me as a bit of a suburban dad at the same time as a musician. It's part of my thing. It's like you can't. That's the funny thing with branding and music. All the artists out there that are really trying to show something that they might not really be becomes a little transparent. And this is kind of part of my story. So I'm pretty happy and proud to be able to be a bit of a suburban dad and a bit of a country singer by night. So it's a Clark Kent Superman sort of a situation there.
He's my favorite superhero. So
He's got some normalness to him.
he does. He
Yeah.
really does. Um, when your kids are grown, they're going to care more about who you are at the dinner table than on the stage. Right now, are you proud of that, man?
Yeah, I think so. For sure. I think it's I have a really close relationship with my girls, and I like being a girl dad. I like knowing how to French braid and do all the tricks, and so and I feel like right now I'm still kind of holding on to cool dad for a couple more minutes before my oldest daughter. She's 12, so she's not quite a teenager yet, but I'm really trying to embrace the attention that they're giving me now before they get into those fun teenage years I keep hearing about.
Yeah. I know. I know as a mom of teenagers, we become the cringy mom.
I feel like it's in my future. It's happening
Yeah,
sooner or later, whether I like it or not.
exactly. As a prairie guy with small town roots, do you ever feel tension between staying grounded and craving something bigger? Because you kind of mentioned it earlier, where it's like you kind of reach the success and you kind of want to push it further if you can.
Mm-hmm.
How do you stay grounded in those moments?
Um, I think I'm always trying to push it further. I'm always trying to level up and make sure that I'm giving myself the best chance to succeed that I can. But I feel like there's a level of being grounded, I think, that comes with sort of my Canadianness. Like I don't want to move to America. I don't want my kids to grow up there. I love what I have here, and I think I want to make sure that I'm always at least true to that I've got a situation that I think a lot of people would be envious of, and so that's important to me, to make sure that well, being successful is super important to me in my music career. It's not more important than making sure my family has a good life and a lot of happiness and love. So I feel like there's a way to balance that, and in music you kind of end up, you write what you love, you write what you live, and I think it
Absolutely.
helps inform the art as I kind of grow older as a songwriter.
Right. So let's strip away the music and strip away the charts. If it all disappeared tomorrow, God forbid, um, the industry, the validation, the stage, behind all that, who are you?
Well, I think I'm a born multitasker. Like, I can't sit still. So like right now, for example, I'm like, I host a morning radio show in Edmonton here on CFCW, and I'm also developing a kids TV show. So I'm working on that right now. And, I've got a record label. I'm producing for other artists. And so there's always something on the go. So, I mean, if it all changed tomorrow, I'd be putting all that effort into something else creative and just, trying to multitask at an Olympic level over here.
That's awesome. I love that. I wish you luck with all that. I mean, some of it is already rolling, obviously, but the kids' TV shows sounds awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. It's like Pee-wee's Playhouse meets the Muppets, meets Yo Gabba Gabba, and it's so much fun, and like it's jokes for the parents. And by the time it eventually comes out, my kids will be old enough that they'll think that I am the cringy dad, but that's okay. There's a whole new generation of dads out there that'll love it, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure there will be. Um, so you're an Alberta guy. You're deeply tied to Alberta and the prairies. And those areas kind of shape people a little differently. What did growing up here teach you about resilience and love and pride? What can you say about the prairies that may be better than, like you said earlier, doing your career in America or anywhere else?
Yeah, well, I've always loved the amount of space we have here, and the amount of it's a spirit of community, I think, in our prairie provinces here. And my parents grew up in Manitoba. I got lots of family in Saskatchewan, and so I'm just used to that space and the ability to have those like urban experiences. But also, it takes 10 seconds to get out of town if you really want to. And just coming back from a promo tour in Ontario, traffic and the amount of people, like I loved it in my 20s, but the older I get, the more I'm like, oh, I'm so thankful that we live out here.
No, I agree.
Yeah, and it is a good country music market, especially in Alberta, because there's enough people that you can play to a lot of crowd, and then there's money out here, so we're in a pretty good spot. Like for country music, you're Southern Ontario or Alberta is kind of the place to be, and this just makes a lot of sense to me. So I'm very happy out here. Lots of opportunity for people in all kinds of different industries out here. So it's a good place to have a family.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Let's chat a little bit about your creative process, your story writing, your songs. Is there a story that you haven't told yet because it feels too personal or too raw?
Sometimes I feel like, I go to these Nashville songwriters rounds or whatever, and everyone's just like had these just tumultuous times and just these horrific experiences in their lives that they have to write a song about and pour their hearts out. And I feel like when it comes to that kind of stuff, I've been pretty lucky. Like I haven't had to go through something terrible like that. I got a lot of happiness and a lot of love surrounding me, and I've had that for a long time. So I try and be thankful of that and put that into my songs. And when that's needs a antithesis, like I'm trying to write the soundtrack for other people's lives and write things that I think that other people could relate to. So I feel like I'm always kind of studying the emotions of people around me. I feel like I've got a bit of a high emotional IQ, and I try to absorb, all these things and it's really just a study of people, when you're trying to connect with people. I feel like this next record that I'm writing is very much to do with sort of maybe where I'm at in my life as far as my age and with my family and stuff. I've written a couple songs about my kids growing up that are really personal and probably the most emotional songs I think I've ever written. And yeah, like I know everybody loves a nostalgic song, but when you start really feeling like that, they just start to hit a little different.
Absolutely, for sure. I would imagine, yeah. So when you sit down to write, what actually comes first? The melody, the hook? How does it start for you?
It's always different, Sometimes I'll have just a list of like sayings that I write down on my phone. Maybe I heard it in the crowd somewhere, or somebody said it on a TV show, and it's like, oh, that's kind of an interesting turn of phrase. So I'll write that down. And sometimes it's just a guitar riff or a melody, and I sing a lot into my phone, and a lot of the stuff I sing into my phone makes no sense like 10 minutes later. I'm just, I was like thinking that was a terrible idea. But in a writer's session, like a lot of the sessions I do when I write with the people that I love making music with, we'll sit down and see if anyone has a title, and we'll talk about it a little bit and see if there's like a way we can slot it into somebody's life or some sort of loose storyline. And sometimes the songs are you're trying to twist it on its head, so it's got a really clever way that it kind of wraps up into a nice bow. And sometimes it's just like, if it feels good to say, then say it. Don't turn your brain off and just do the thing that people can relate to. So I never quite know. I never know what the process is, but I do know that after collaboration is such a big thing in country music. We're always writing with other people, and a lot of us find our little tribe. I've got about 4 or 5 people that become sort of, I just understand their creative process, and they get who I am and what I do. And it's just, you see these little groups that come up and they kind of go up together and build careers together. So I've got a few people like that, and yeah, it's fun. And the creative process, sometimes I'm writing all the time, and sometimes I just need a couple months to not.
Absolutely. And then sometimes the idea just hits you over the head when you're not looking for it.
Yeah, some of the best songs are written in 40 minutes, like it's nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of feel good songs and feel good energy, you've kind of built a reputation for big sort of feel good energy songs. But I'm curious, when you're writing alone, does it look different than what we hear on the radio? Is there a version of you in that room that we don't see?
Yeah, when I'm writing alone, I usually like to develop things to a certain point, and then I leave it, and I'll bring it into a writing session as a bit of a nugget, like a starting point. And
Mhm.
I find that works really well for me because sometimes when I'm writing alone, I just get caught up in the guitar because I'm a guitar player at heart. Like I never really picture myself as a singer. I don't. That's not how I personally identify myself. I'm like a general good music guy, and in country music, there's so many like just insane singers. So my ego is pretty small compared to I think what a lot of people can do out there. So I tend to when I'm writing by myself get a little introspective and I do, I try and prove too much to myself. Like I'm trying to do too much, trying to play too fancy, trying to sing more than I need to, or try and pull off things that are either too high or too complicated for what I need to be doing. And
Mhm.
yeah, sometimes I need that reminder to just keep it simple, stupid. Yeah.
Have you ever felt the pressure of being branded into something specific? Or, I mean, you did start off with rock, and it kind of didn't fit. Um,
Yeah.
are there other examples of that?
Yeah, I mean, in country, it's all over the place. Like it's tough because there's this big stream of artists that everyone's kind of going in the same direction, and I think like the best artists are always the ones that have a way to make their personality sort of make stand the test of time, and I'm always wanting to do that, and it feels weird when that's not in the same direction as everyone else is going, and
Yeah.
right now, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of guys out there that sound exactly like Morgan Wallen, and they look exactly like Morgan Wallen, and it's like, I don't. That's not something I can do very well. I don't want to
Yeah.
try, but it's sometimes it feels wrong to do the thing that's true to your creative spirit, and that's okay. Like you're not gonna have a hit with every song. It's not, you're not always gonna win, but it's good to build the story as an overall picture sometimes.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've spoken to other artists who've said, like they've gone from, I spoke to an artist, she said she went from, like people got used to hearing the hip hop reggae side of her, but really she likes the like emo, kind of music, and it was really scary and hard for her to try to, because she's transitioning into that, but people are used to hearing this kind of girl. Did you feel that going into country from rock?
A little bit, it was a very friendly time for rock artists to get into country because there's, other guys were doing it too, like Dallas
Mhm.
Smith and a couple other people that we know in Canada. Um, and like, at the time, like Florida Georgia Line was really big, so it was really rock heavy country. And
Right.
yeah, so it felt pretty natural, like a couple of the guys from the rock band are still with me in the country band, and we do a lot of the same tricks that we used to do back in the day on stage. It's just now we have a banjo and a fiddle in the band, so it doesn't feel all that different really to me. And I think for the
Yeah.
most part, fans were pretty receptive because our fans back in the Tupelo Honey rock and roll days, they were growing up too. And I think the more you kind of get older with music and songwriting, the more country kind of just seems to appeal to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I think transitioning from rock to country, there's a lot of things that kind of overlap in those two. You can even like
Yeah.
blend them together and you get like a really cool sound. Like Hosier does a lot of like folk, almost country-ish rock kind of songs. So I think, yeah,
Yeah.
have you ever combined those two ideas, or have you ever?
Yeah, like we've done some songs that are fairly rock leaning. And it's always fun, like I'd like to try and mix it up a little bit. So we might do that one song and then change it up and go super country on the next song. But the funny thing is it's easier to go from rock to country than it would be from country to rock. That audience is a little bit more, like protective of the genre, I think. So
I agree. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's definitely a good point. What scares you more, writing something too honest or writing something safe?
Writing something safe for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything that seems very, like beige, just like nothing, vanilla ice cream, like something that's just like non-threatening. Just feels like you're gonna get, you're not like the best kind of reactions you want to get from people is either I love it or I hate it. If it's like, it's okay, then you really haven't done anything. You've just kind of put more noise into the world, and I think it's good. It's good to get some reactions out of people. So I like as a fan of music, I enjoy when people kind of push what I'm used to liking and make me think a little bit more.
If you weren't following sort of the blueprint of what a Dan Davidson song is right now, and you just kind of pushed that boundary a little more, and you wrote a song, what song would you write, or what would it sound like?
Right now, I think there's a part of me that always wants to really get back to that band thing that I grew up with, like with the rock and roll band before computers and technology and anything. It was just this raw thing of a bunch of people in a room trying to connect and understand everybody's musical personality. And it was a lot of fun. I think that might be the most fun I've had in music is when no one had anything to do. We were just a bunch of young guys, and we knew we were going to just spend the day hanging out, making music. And there's an energy to that I still miss a lot. And it's harder to do now because everyone's, as you get older, you got so many things on the go, and you got so many commitments to deal with, and families and all this stuff. But that's always something I romanticize in my head. And I think for me that environment always lends to doing something a little louder, a little more guitar driven and more rock and roll. So I always think about that. But if I was to write a song by myself, I think it would be, like something like, I would probably dig from the depths of what really got me excited about music in the olden days. And I think a lot of it was some more of the acoustic side of bands like Pearl Jam. And it's like, it's rock, but it's got acoustic elements. And I think country people could also find meaning behind it. And I think it would be something crossover like that just sort of exposed where I came from and highlighted kind of where I am.
I love that. That's awesome. Congratulations on the release of Ain't That the Truth.
Thanks. Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, it's a great song. And when you were ready to release it, and when listeners were going to hear the song, what were you hoping would hit them first? The hook, the groove, the message? I'm sure you wanted it all, but what was your goal in that song?
I think for that one, like after we wrote it, it just felt good. Like it wasn't too thinky. So I think it's just that summary sort of nostalgic vibe, I think is that's what appeals to me about that song. It just makes me feel good. It makes me feel like maybe it's springtime now and we can start looking at some happier moments and so that's kind of what I hope people would get out of it. Like they not overanalyzing it, just letting it kind of take them somewhere else. And because that's what it does for me. And I think that's why I picked it as a single and a song for the record too. It's just, if it feels good, do it kind of a thing.
Absolutely. Well, it did that for me. So
good.
It worked.
Perfect.
What would you call this chapter of your life then?
That's a good question. I wrestle with that sometimes because, it's a different perception of an artist who's now in their 40s. It's funny because like I don't feel any different, and I feel like I'm putting out music that is also pretty youthful and exciting. But I've got some experience. There's some road behind me now, so I kind of know how things go, and I understand the industry really well now. So yeah, it's really strange. I'm not sure what the perception of me is out there, but I'm just trying to like not let the negativity of or potential negativity of what that might mean being where I'm at in my career affect me in any way. Like I know that I'm better at coming up with new ideas of marketing and getting involved in more things that are pushing my career down the road in a faster way than it used to. So the way I look at it is I still have the energy and the drive to release music like I did when I was 20, but now I have a little bit of a roadmap printed out, so I know I don't have to make those same mistakes that I made when I was 20.
Yeah, absolutely. What are you working on right now? What are you building right now that people don't fully see yet?
Well, I think the kids show is going to be the big one. It's called Dan Sandwich, and it's like,
oh, that's so cute.
It's absolutely absurd. Like, so we have this whole set done up. We were about 70% done. We were doing 7 episodes, and like I have about probably $50,000 worth of 8-foot puppets and mascots. So I've got
Oh,
like
wow.
a giant chunk of ham named Hamela Anderson. You know, we got all this stupid stuff at our studio, and so it's me and 4 other musicians. And you know, there's been a lot of like major networks that have kind of expressed a little bit of interest in this. So we've done a lot of work and gotten a whole bunch of grants. So once this is done, we're going to be marketing it with a pretty heavy hammer. It's going to be out there in the world, and I'm getting the sinking feeling it's going to work. I don't feel like it might be a children's entertainer one day, but yeah, like I get to do all the music, and we have great special guests on the show. And you know, if it all falls apart, at least I have enough puppets to start a birthday party business. I don't know.
Go. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really exciting. It's definitely one of the things that I'm most pumped up about in my creative life right now.
Well, now I am too. So yeah. I'll be looking out for that one.
Watch out for it.
For sure. What's one song in this upcoming phase that feels especially personal? One that you're both excited and nervous to release? If there is one.
Yeah, there's definitely one. There's one called Training Wheels on the record, and that's the one that's it's about my daughters just like growing up too fast. You know, like one minute they're 4 and the next minute they're 14. And yeah, there's just a lot of like introspective kind of ways that I'm, you know, I think it's spawned from a moment of like taking the training wheels off my kid's bike and realizing like she was ready for this a long time ago. He's like, these training wheels are more for me than you. And that was kind of like one of the key lines in the song. And yeah, it's a tough one. I played it at a few songwriters events and get me all teared up, and it's embarrassing. But I mean, that means it's good though. I think it means it's hitting.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could relate to that. So it's not embarrassing. I think that's definitely something parents go through. So
yeah, it all happens so fast, you know, like it's crazy. I still, like, my oldest daughter's 12, and I look at her and she looks so old, but she also looks exactly the same as the little 3-year-old. And it's crazy.
And that's how it is with my kids. They say, Mom, I don't like that stuff anymore. Like, and I'm like, no, you can't go away from that phase. You got to stay in that phase.
This is it forever. Yeah, you will always love Dora the Explorer.
Yeah, will love Dorothy. So this year at the Country Music Alberta Awards, you're not just nominated. You've got a lot going on. You're co-hosting, you're performing, competing for Male Artist of the Year. That's a full circle moment. When you look at that responsibility, standing on that stage as a host while also being in the running, how do you feel about that?
It's good. You know, I've never really hosted something like that before, so I don't 100% know what to expect, or how many jokes I got to write myself, or how much teleprompter reading I got to do. So that's going to be an interesting journey for me, but it is nice to be nominated for Male Artist of the Year. It's always tough, you know, like music isn't football, so it's hard to say you want, and like it's hard to feel like you can win music, but it is nice to be up there and being nominated, and especially alongside guys like Brett Kissel and, you know, Corb Lund and Aaron Goodman. And Gord Bamford. There's some real heavy hitters there, so that's good for my ego. But all the award shows are lots of fun. You know, it feels like all these little things. It's a bit of a high school reunion. You know, you see people from the industry that normally you only get to spend a couple minutes with backstage at a festival somewhere, and you actually get to sit and have dinner with them, which is always kind of nice.
That's really cool. So you've earned 20 CCMA nominations, 10 Alberta Country Music Awards, a platinum certified single, a #1 Canadian country song and record, and multiple 20 top radios hits. When you hear that list back to back like that, how does that feel? Does it feel real?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty good. It always feels. You know, it's been a long career, so a lot of that stuff is accumulated over time, and it is great. It's nice to see those little cell sheets and be like, oh yeah, I did do something there. That's kind of good. But it always feels like as soon as you get a milestone, you're on to the next one. Though I try not to wallow in it for too long. You know, I feel like you just can't in this industry, but it is nice. I feel like the big one for me was getting that platinum record. Like, as an independent artist, it's so hard to get that kind of attention. So, you know, when lightning strikes even once, it's huge for I don't know, your personal feeling of accomplishment.
Absolutely, for sure. What accomplishments on that list means the most to you and why? I
Um,
think you kind of mentioned it, but
yeah, well, another one that I could say is, there's a stat on those sheets. It's like I've toured in 8 countries, and I always thought, when the rock and roll days were done, I was like, oh man, well there goes my chance to tour internationally like I always wanted to. Like as a kid, I was watching all the home movies of my favorite bands, being in Europe and Australia and Japan, and I never thought in a million years that country music would take me to these places. But yeah, I was, I played in Italy and Hungary and Spain and the UK and France and Australia and China. And it's weird. I never thought that would be a thing I would get to experience in my life. And I'm so proud of those things because I feel like I made that happen without anybody else. Really, it was just me just digging and meeting people and being an annoying personal salesman to myself. And it's just led to a lot of really great life experiences. You're saying if it all ended tomorrow, kind of a scenario, that's one of those things where you're like, this has been an incredible experience, and I'm one of the lucky ones to be able to see the world that way with my friends by my side. It's a lot of fun, and it's been pretty cool for the resume.
that's awesome. I love that. Just to kind of tie it all up and wrap it all up, I'm going to do a rapid fire
Sure,
bunch of questions, if that's all right.
of course.
All right. Studio writing session or spontaneous late night idea?
Studio writing session. I feel like
Okay.
I'm never ready for a spontaneous spontaneous one.
Lyrics first or melody first?
I'll go melody.
Okay. Something you've unlearned.
Something I've unlearned. French. Every time I learn French, I learn a bunch when we go to France or Quebec, and I learn a whole bunch of stuff to say, and then I forget it as soon as we're home. So I unlearned
Oh my gosh. I think I did 10 years of French. And I'm Lebanese, so our second language is French. Not a lick of French.
Really?
Not
Yeah.
a lick.
If you don't use it, you lose it, right?
Yeah, exactly. What song of yours hits different live?
Ah, that's a good question. There's one song that never really did much out there that I think was always fun for me to sing. It was called "Don't Judge a Beer by the Label," and it was kind of just like, okay, a beer song from country music, great. But I think it's got like a cool message and it's got a cool swag, and yeah, we don't really play it that much live, but I always thought that it went over well.
Love that. What's one habit you have before performing?
Getting nervous and convincing myself that I've lost my voice. Like all these years of performing in front of people, and I still get stage fright. I still forget lyrics if I'm too nervous, and it
No,
never goes away.
part of the process, right?
Yeah.
Um, Best advice you've gotten in your career?
Um, I think probably my dad said something to me once that always stuck with me. And it's probably came from a moment of insecurity. And he's like, well, all you can do is be great and don't go away. So I got the
I love that.
don't go away part going for me. I'm still working on the
I
other
love that.
thing.
That's really good.
Yeah, right? It's simple.
Yeah. One goal you haven't yet achieved but hope to.
I'd love to play on the Opry stage. I think that'd be really cool. I got to play backstage at the Opry this year, but I didn't. I'm always wanted to see what that feeling is like.
Cool.
Mhm.
What keeps you hungry right now, other than food?
I think a challenge, like I'm setting with this record label I've set up with the guys from the Roadhammers. There's so much to be done, and so many big picture swings to take, and I don't always know what the steps are to get where I'm going. And part of the challenge is figuring it out. And there's like an added time constraint that comes with that. Cause in the music industry, you got to do stuff before other people do it. So it keeps me hungry.
Yeah.
It keeps me stressed, but it's good stress.
Right. If fans saw your camera roll, what would surprise them?
Uh, Lack of selfies, maybe. I think I'm so like, I'm at an age where it's like, I think I can't connect with the 20-year-old artists because I grew up with, artists never talk about yourself, never tell anyone you're cool. They have to tell you you're cool. And now it's like all the young kids, they're always just documenting everything and trying to posture so much. I'm just like, God, it just feels weird to me. Can't connect.
It's probably mostly your daughters and things like that.
Yeah, that's no surprise. There, it's
Yeah, yeah,
full of precious moments.
love that. And the biggest misconception that people have about you.
Um, Geez, I don't know. That's a good question.
Has
Like,
anyone ever said something like, "Oh, I thought you were this kind of person," and you're like, "What are you talking about?"
I definitely get, when people hear when I play live and they hear "Found," which was the platinum hit. People are always like, "Oh, you're the guy that sings that song." So I get that a lot, which is kind of
Okay.
annoying. I'm like, so you know the song, but you don't know me. So that's yeah. Misconception is maybe people think I'm somebody else sometimes.
That's interesting. I get a lot of people think I'm just like people are shocked when they find out I'm a nerd. So that's one of the
Okay, I get a little of that too. Yeah, I know a little too much about Lord of the Rings, maybe.
good, as you should.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for the great answers. Thanks, and good luck with the show that's coming up.
Thanks.
I'm very excited, and I'll be watching out for the kids show that you're going to be releasing soon. That sounds like a wild but fun ride.
Yeah, it'll be strange and interesting, I promise.
All right. Thank you so much.